Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. This is your home for organic Bible study that's fresh and prepared daily just for you. And this week and all this week, we're studying Psalm 88. Psalm 88 is a prayer of affliction. I mean, that's just about as plain as you can put it. This is a man, we're going to call him Heman because that's what we have in the title of the psalm. He is afflicted, and boy, is he really afflicted. And this prayer that he makes to the Lord, it's a prayer/complaint, really, because there's no good resolution to this prayer that he's making. It doesn't end with glorious redemption and deliverance from his troubles, which sometimes, unfortunately, is the way our prayers go, you know. We will pray be honest as we can with the Lord, and we don't see exactly the thing that we wanted to see, which is often a disappointment. But that's being real and that's being honest. That's what's happening here in this particular psalm. And we read yesterday 4 through 7, and we saw him begin to address his complaint. He's a man without no strength. We made comment on that. God has forgotten him there in verse 5. Verse 6, he gets very specific. You have laid me in the lowest pit, in darkness, in the deeps. He feels like God just put him away into hell itself. Your wrath lies hard upon me. Thou hast afflicted me with all thy waves. So he feels like he's under not necessarily the forgotten hand of God, but now the judging hand of God, the chastening hand of God. It's hard upon our psalmist. We have the Selah here in verse 7, which breaks the passage. And then today we're going to read verses 8 through 10. Thou hast put away mine acquaintance far from me. Thou hast made me an abomination unto them. I am shut up, and I cannot come forth. Mine eyes are mourned by reason of affliction. Lord, I have called daily upon thee. I have stretched out my hands unto thee. Wilt thou show wonders to the dead? Shall the dead arise and praise thee? Selah. Some of this sounds a little bit familiar, doesn't it? Especially that last piece. Shall the dead arise and praise thee? That comes straight out of the Davidic Psalter. Or maybe David learned it here from this fellow Heman. Because we've seen that before in some of David's Psalms. That he would say, Lord, the dead can't praise you, so, protect me, use me, heal me, deliver me from my enemy, so forth. Well, here we have more complaint. Thou hast put away mine acquaintance far from me. Now we're going to see the acquaintance mentioned again there in verse 18. We'll get to that when we get to the broadcast on Friday. Today we're looking here at verse 8. Thou hast made me an abomination unto them. And notice the next things he says. I am shut up, I cannot come forth. That's led some commentators to say perhaps this man had leprosy or some disease which kept him in the house. He couldn't maybe even get out of the bed. And maybe the bed was his pit, his darkness, his grave, his strength having drained away, lying there in that place of suffering. Mine eye mourneth by reason of affliction. So he's under some sort of affliction, and then notice the next statement there in verse 9. Lord, I have called daily upon thee. I have stretched out my hands unto thee. So lying there in his bed of affliction in his house, he stretches out his hands to the Lord and calls on the God of his salvation. Isn't that wonderful? I mean that he can still do that and be this honest with God even in a moment of this kind of suffering. Wilt thou show wonders to the dead? There's our theme of the grave again, cropping back up here in this third section. Shall the dead arise and praise thee? And I've already made mention of that, so Davidic. And then we end with the Selah. So we break again, and we're going to pick up in verse 11 tomorrow and read through verse 14. And this is actually what we're going to read tomorrow in 11 through 14 has been prepared for us here in verse 10. So I hope you'll join me again tomorrow on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.